I haven't had communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what a problem is. I put him like where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club.
50 Cent takes some responsibility for Lloyd Banks and toting Ayo.
What responsibility? Like a parent?
You're the leader.
What responsibility am I taking for him? Like, explain to me.
That you didn't encourage them to be independent sooner.
That's not true.
Nope, that's not the case. Lloyd Banks is finally speaking out, and he's not sugarcoating a thing. After years of being labeled a slacker G-Unit, Banks is turning the tables and calling out 50 Cent head-on for the disrespect, the false narratives, and the way he's been rewriting history for years. When G-Unit first blew up, it wasn't just 50 steering the ship. Banks was the lyrical powerhouse. His punchlines, his presence, his whole vibe, he gave the group its grit. They were meant to be like family, or so we thought. But once the spotlight hit, something changed. 50 started throwing shade, calling Banks lazy, saying he didn't have the drive, even clowning in his book like he'd just given up. And through all of that, Banks kept his cool. No interviews, no drama, no public shots, until now. In his latest sit-down, Banks finally dropped the real story, and it's unfiltered. He revealed 50 was MIA during some of the darkest moments of his life. That lazy label? Completely bogus. What's crazy is Banks never stopped grinding. He just wasn't moving the way 50 expected. While Banks was...
The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time.
Building his legacy in silence. 50 was busy reshaping the narrative. And of course, he wasn't about to let things slide. He fired back quickly, tossing fresh shade at Banks like it was 2005 all over again. Now, everyone's wondering, what really shattered the G-Unit Brotherhood? Was it betrayal? Was it pride? Or is there a deeper story we haven't heard? Is Banks finally stepping into the respect he's long deserved? Or is 50 still pulling the strings from behind the curtain? Let's unpack the real story behind this messy split. For years, Lloyd Banks stayed silent. No media rounds, no petty exchanges, no headline-chasing drama. But after 50 randomly threw yet another cheap shot, completely out of nowhere, Banks finally reached his breaking point. Enough is enough, he said. During a behind-the-scenes clip from one of 50's recent tour stops, he name-dropped both Banks and Young Buck on Instagram, making it seem like Banks had faded into irrelevance. But here's the difference. This is what sets Banks apart from 50. Lloyd doesn't live for the internet. He's not online tossing around slick insults or stirring up drama for clout. But when he was asked about it in a rare interview, he finally opened up and things got real fast. Banks didn't just respond to the drama. He peeled back the curtain on the so-called lazy narrative 50's been running with for years. He said it...
So, Banks' temperament was definitely a little crazy. I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said to Banks directly. Another time I sat down with him, just when IG was starting to pop off, and tried to drop this gem on him. You gotta get on Instagram, I encouraged him. You can be a little awkward in person, so this is actually a better way for you to communicate with people. Nah, I don't want to do it, he said. Why not? You can literally put punchlines under your pictures, make some new fans. Nah, that's corny, he told me. When Banks made that comment to me, I realized he had gone as far as he can go. In fact, my exact thought was, this is someone I can't invest another minute or dollar.
Plainly, he wasn't lazy, he was grieving. While Lloyd Banks was quietly building his legacy, 50 Cent was rewriting the story in public. Then out of nowhere, 50 tossed another jab, name-dropping Banks and Young Buck during a recent tour stop and clowning Banks like he was some washed-up has-been. And that's the difference right there. Banks doesn't live for the internet. He's not out here trading shots on...
He's a very good lyricist. Among what are known as the punchline rappers who will end their bars with a funny or tongue-in-cheek line, Banks like to call himself the PLK or Punchline King. I don't know if he's the king, but I'll give it to him that he's in the conversation. He is not, however, a great live performer, stylish dresser, or a domineering personality. So if he doesn't check those three boxes, how is he going to get bigger and become the star in real life he is?
Social media, or stirring the pot for clout. But when asked about it during a rare interview, he finally broke his silence. And things got personal fast. Banks didn't just respond. He exposed the truth. He didn't fall off. He was grieving. Around the same time 50 was calling him lazy and unmotivated, Banks had just lost his father. He was in deep pain, and instead of support, he got public ridicule, interviews, jokes, memes, even a whole chapter in 50's book dragging him like he'd given up. But in reality, Banks was just trying to survive. He's always been a standout when it comes to bars, one of the coldest among the punchline rappers. He even crowned himself the PLK Punchline King. Whether he owns that title or not, he's definitely in the conversation. But he's never been known for his stage presence, his fashion, or a commanding persona. And without those, how was he ever supposed to be a megastar in the spotlight? He wasn't. And that's not beef anymore. That's betrayal. Sure, 50 gave him props here and there, calling him a solid lyricist. But then he'd pivot, saying Banks lacked the drive, the spark, that it factor. For Banks, that wasn't feedback. That was a low blow. Because when life hit hard, 50 didn't check in. No calls. No support. Just silence. And that hurt more than any diss ever could. Banks is done with the he fell off narrative. Since 2021, he's quietly released 3 full-length albums, the course of the inevitable series. No radio hits. No big label push. No viral stunts. Just raw bars and pure consistency. He never stopped rapping. He just stopped chasing fake industry love. That's where the real fracture started. Banks wasn't made for the clout era. No gimmicks. No thirst for fame. Just lyrics, legacy, and authenticity. But in 50's world, if you're not boosting the brand, you're baggage. Banks was tired of playing backup, and 50 wasn't having it. To understand how deep this runs, you gotta rewind. Banks, 50, and Yayo came up together in South Jamaica, Queens. This wasn't some label-assembled crew. This was real history, real bonds. When 50 Blue would get rich or die trying, he put his people on. But somewhere along the way, loyalty turned into leverage. G-Unit wasn't just a rap group. It was a movement. Banks brought the gritty bars and East Coast feel. His mixtapes, Money in the Bank, Cold Corner, were legendary. Then came 2004. The hunger for more dropped and went platinum in under a month. On Fire, Karma, I'm So Fly, straight heat. G-Unit was on top. 50 ran the charts. Banks held his own. Yayo had his moment, and Buck and Game helped take it nationwide. They had music, clothing lines, Reebok deals, even their own video game. And make no mistake, Banks wasn't riding coattails. He helped build that empire. Even 50 said early on, Banks had one of the sharpest pens in the game. But as the fame got louder, the cracks started to show. Buck got kicked. Game flipped sides. And that G-Unit bond, it started breaking apart. Banks faded into the background. Not because he wasn't dope, but because the vibe had shifted. He never chased cameras. But now, it was like he'd disappeared. And 50? He wasn't subtle. In interviews, he'd say stuff like, I haven't spoken to Banks in years, or he couldn't even tell you what the issue is. Then he'd go on about how Banks never performed certain songs, or didn't bring energy on stage. He painted a picture of someone ungrateful. And when Banks pushed back, saying he hadn't even been on 50's last records, 50 clapped back with, so what? I put you on with Eminem. That was a favor. Nobody knew who you were. The split didn't happen with drama. It was a slow fade. The love just disappeared. Gina started moving like solo acts repping the same logo. 50 even admitted it. The drama behind the scenes was too deep. A reunion? Not happening. Banks started ghosting everything. Press, interviews, even 50's public appearances. Fans took it as disrespect. But the truth? It was more complicated. While Banks stepped back, 50 kept firing. Interview after interview, jabbing at Banks's hustle. Kept pushing the same tired story. He's got talent, but no drive. 50 once said Banks was stuck in a 90s mindset, patterned after Biggie and Pac. And while Banks does rep that era hard, 50 saw it as a flaw. He told Banks to film his life, go viral, play the game. But Banks wasn't interested. And that's when the frustration boiled over. He's got Lazy Lloyd tatted on his arm, 50 said. That's who he is. To him, Banks wanted to shine without the grind. Talented, yes, but introverted and cocky, never willing to fight for the spotlight. And 50, he lives by 4. And 50, he lives by 4 rules. Make great music, kill it live, stand out visually, and have a strong personality. He says Tupac had all 4. Chris Brown, Mary J. Blige. But Banks, maybe 1. To 50, that made him dead weight. He even clowned Banks for being low-key, like privacy was a crime. But that's just who Banks is. He wanted to let the music speak, not play Hollywood. To fans, that made him real. To 50, that made him unreliable. When Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter dropped, 50 turned the shade into fire. Said Banks and Yayo were stuck in the past. Called Banks by name. Said he lacked hustle, didn't want to grow, didn't want to level up. Called him a missed opportunity with bars. And still, Banks didn't swing back. But listen to his song Stranger Things. The pain in that record, it's personal. Fans swear it was aimed straight at 50. Because that's where they really differ. To 50, being a star is everything. Money, fame, power. To Banks, success means doing what you love, feeding your family, and keeping your peace. 50 once said he'd rather be robbed at gunpoint than be betrayed. Because betrayal, that cuts deeper. He said it straight. He puts heavy thought into who he lets close, because loyalty to him is life or death. He made the mistake of thinking loyalty meant proximity, that just because someone was from the same block, they'd ride forever. He learned the hard way. So now, if he feels even a hint of disloyalty, he cuts ties. No hesitation. Just ask his own son, Marquise. 50 cut him off over a loyalty issue. So what chance did Banks really have? Yayo caught heat too. So did Buck. And when Banks and Game were spotted together in a photo years later, that was the final straw. 50 posted and deleted a cryptic message. What do you see in this picture? I see confusion. Translation? Loyalty broken. So now we ask, was 50 protecting his empire or burning it down from the inside? Was Banks wrong for walking away quietly? Or was 50 wrong for turning brotherhood into a branding war? Whatever side you're on, one thing's clear. The G-Unit chapter is closed. And in 50's world, betrayal is worse than death. Because when someone walks away without saying a word, that's not just business. That's personal.